Comebacks galore on Sunday afternoon. One of them on a big golf stage, one of them in Kansas City involving the Minnesota Twins. So the Twins down 6-0 in the eighth inning. They come back and win 7-6, 5 runs in the eighth, 2 in the ninth. They sweep the Kansas City Royals. In golf, Justin Thomas down 7 strokes entering the final round, storms back, goes to a playoff with Will Zalatoris, and wins in the playoff for his second career PGA Championship. Ron, I ask you, which comeback is more impressive? The Twins down 6th in the 8th or Thomas down 7 in the final round?
So in golf, we know it's a game like in that weather, first of all, that became mental. Like, I think if it was nice, hot, sunny, 80 degrees, nice little breeze, great day out on the course where you can have a iced tea lemonade, sit back, greet the fans. But I saw people in winter coats. You saw players walking down the green, the fairway, with mittens on. It was miserable because I've played in the cold and I've quit. It sucks. Your hands are cold. You're trying to figure out ways to stay warm. You're blowing on them. The club is hard as a rock. The ball is hard. Like, it just doesn't compress in the cold. Like, if you freeze a golf ball and try to hit it, it might break. It can't compress completely when it's cold, and that just changes everything. You have to, club up, as they say. You have to maybe hit it under the wind. You saw a lot of like worm burners. You saw a lot of guys trying to work balls and do different things that you don't see normally. You also see guys mentally breaking down. That was impressive. The Twins, though, that was just as impressive. Baseball is not a game where when you go into the 8th and 9th innings down, the 7th inning stretch song plays and you're down like that. And mainly because it's so early in the season too, a lot of teams just give up. They put their second baseman in to come pitch, finish the game out, let's move on. The Twins are showing the resiliency that they're going to need down the stretch, because we talked about this, the early report card, it's still looking great. Like, these guys haven't faltered yet. And they made it without Buxton and Correa for a little bit. That was even more impressive. You look at the pitchers, solid 5 innings, the ERA, they're not getting murdered where it's like, man, we need a pitcher. Their pitchers are like, look, our bats are hot. We're doing just enough. Let's hold off. We might give up some here, but if we can hold off and get through this with the next maybe 3 or 4 pitchers in the next couple of innings, each of you going to pitch 1 inning, or you're going to get 2 innings. They're working that bullpen perfectly right now. But I got to say golf. Honestly, when you see that, like in track, it reminds me of like the 4x4, relay. And that last person gets the stick maybe 100 yards or 100 meters behind. And they just kick it into gear and kill it. Somehow they catch up and make it a race at the end. That's what that felt like, in that golf. Like golf, and nothing against golf. I love it. Playing it, watching it, it's not a lot that makes it exciting. Like when Tiger played, it always was, because if he was in striking distance, that was must-see TV. The galleries were ridiculous. Every shot he takes, you see the heads turn like a dog chasing a tennis ball. So I'm going to go with golf just because of the distance.
The golf was exhilarating. It was super fun to watch the playoff. I think I actually lean baseball. The Twins come back, and here's why. Because Thomas didn't need to make up all 7 of those strokes himself. The leaders came back to him. Yeah. Mito Pereira hits the ball in the water on the 18th hole. They go to a playoff with Zalatoris. But it's not like Thomas was, shooting a 60. He shot a nice 67. He had a solid round on a tough day to play. Everybody else came back to him. The Twins had to make up every single run. They had to score all 7 of those to win that game. So I'm going to go Twins.
Okay.
Next question. The Timberwolves are in negotiations with Tim Connolly, the Denver Nuggets executive, to be their new president of basketball operations. If they hire Connolly, Ron, what should his first move in that position be?
Well, first, he's got to look at the free agents out there. If D'Lo is the guy, like if you're really going to say D'Lo's the guy, go get him. Go do what you got to do to solidify this big 3 or small 3, whatever you want to call it, 2 + 1. And then look at the free agents, though. I mean, you got to look at the guys that possibly, I know some guys are unrestricted free agents. Some guys have a player option like John Wall, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Let's take him out of there. Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving. I mean, Kyrie, Anthony Edwards, karl-Anthony Towns. Kyrie is sick of all the junk with the Nets. Young coach and Chris Finch. Maybe Kyrie's ready to come win one with a big cat. But then you have unrestricted free agents out there. Zach LaVine, is it time for him to come back? What do you put into this group? Is there a guy out there? Because looking at the rest of these names, there's not a Tyus Jones. Can he come be a true point guard? So there are some that PJ Tucker, another brute force. You add another Patrick Beverly, so they become the Bash brothers. And PJ Tucker is a tremendous defender. I mean, and he's getting older though, so we gotta admit that. I gotta be honest about that. 11 years in the league, he's getting old, but he's not requiring that much money. He was only making $7 million last year, so he's a guy you can get in to be a true defender. He sees the Timberwolves now as an up and coming team. They've grown. So I mean, if I am, I'm scouring this. Even like Dennis Schroeder. He doesn't give you a lot, but he does give you energy off the bench. Avery Bradley, 12th year. I don't know if that's one. I don't know about JaVale McGee, but I mean, he's cheap. It is his 15th year coming up. He's a guy that gives you energy off the bench. I don't know what he's going to give you though in year 15. So that's what I would look at. I would look at some of these guys. I mean, I think people forgot how good like Marvin Bagley Jr. was supposed to be. There's a lot of guys out there that you can add that might fit into this Timberwolves puzzle. That's number one. So figuring out the D'Lo situation and then scouring this list of guys, because no longer do you need a true point guard anymore. You can get away with Zach LaVine pushing up the ball or Anthony Edwards and those two just being guards. You don't need a point. Now you got two explosive guards with karl-Anthony Towns, two shooters with karl-Anthony Towns. Now, D'Lo is a shooter, but he's not a true point guard. So what are you getting out of that? Tyus Jones is a true facilitator. His plus minus when he's on the court was the best, one of the best in the NBA. So do you bring him back home now? Is it time for him to come run the Timberwolves? I mean, that's his childhood dream. So they drafted him. He didn't get to run the team at that point, moved on, does some great things in Memphis behind Ja Morant. Is it time for him to have his own team now? Is it time for him to take over D'Lo's role and become a true point guard and let Anthony Edwards and karl-Anthony Towns go get you some points? And then when it's time for Tyus to score, we know he can do it because he's done it at Duke. He's done it at Apple Valley High School. So, hey, that's what I do.
Yeah, and the only way that you're taking on either of those guys is if you get rid of the Russell salary. That's the only way. And
that's why I said you got to figure that out.
Yeah, the best case scenario, I think, is if you could find some way, and I don't think it's likely, to trade Russell for picks. So then you got the money, and then you put the money into a player like a LaVine or a Jones. I would love to bring either one of them back. It would be amazing. I love LaVine. He'd be a much better fit than Russell, I think. And Jones too. I mean, we've seen what Jones can do. Like the plus minus when he was on the floor in that series was incredible. He's a defender. He's a facilitator. He's a shooter. I love Tyus Jones. Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of the NBA, we've got a couple series that are getting a little lopsided. I know the Warriors Mavs, it might be over. 3-0 Warriors. It's 2-1 Heat after the Heat steal one on the road against Boston. So I ask you, Ron, can either the Mavs or the Celtics come back?
Yeah, the Celtics for sure, because Jimmy Butler now, I talked about it earlier, the unwritten rule in basketball, don't hurt guys. Like you can go make big, like we looked at the big hit on Gary Payton, when he got hit and he broke his arm. You don't do that kind of stuff. You don't purposely do stuff that can injure a guy, especially a guy that's trying to make money, which is every guy. But, you don't hurt guys, period. Like that's just a thing. Like, but especially guys that their stories, they bounce around the league and all of a sudden, because you are in a moment, you just swipe and take them out. Pulling Jimmy Butler's leg at that point. What was the point of that? Like that was a Grayson Levine move there. That was dirty. So yes, the Celtics can, because we've seen what Jason Tatum can do. They're only one game back, so they win one tonight. Is it tonight or Wednesday? It's Wednesday. It is today.
Tonight.
It's 7:30 tonight. Yeah. So they win tonight. And then they have game 5 on Wednesday, the 25th. And then Friday is game 6. So You win one tonight, it's 2-2. You do got to go back to Miami for game 5, and then you get it back home for game 6. So I think that's what they want to push it. You go down 3-1, it could be over in Miami on Wednesday. So I know they want to push that game 6 to get it back home, even though they don't have home court. They want to push to a game 7. So Miami and Heat is not over, and Jimmy Butler's injury is not great for them. Whereas the Warriors, it's done. Like Luka's done. Yes, he keeps giving you 40 points. He's a ridiculous highlight, but he's done. And Wiggins, I mean, it didn't count. I think they gave him an offensive foul on that when he dunked on Luka. But my goodness, like Wiggins has gone back to Kansas Wiggins. Like he's Kansas Wiggins. He's comfortable. He's pulling up, stop and pop. He's giving them 19, 21 points, in certain games. He's just the energy. He's taking off from the dotted, punching it in Luka's face. Like and he doesn't like get excited. That's what I love about Wiggins. Like he dunks and he just kind of looks around like, oh, did I just do that? Like he's so aloof, with his game. But I know, part of it too is like he doesn't have that confidence that he had at Kansas. He had lost it in Minnesota. People didn't trust him. Jimmy Butler beat him down. And now he's getting it back with a nurturing Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. So it's over for the Warriors. I picked the Warriors in the Heat. So half of my picks are in. But the Heat, Celtics, yeah, it's still a ball game.
It feels like we're headed for another former Timberwolf to hoist the trophy because Garnett gets traded, wins with Boston. Kevin Love gets traded, wins with Cleveland. And now Wiggins and Butler both, they could be facing each other in the finals. One of them has to win. Just more former Wolves going and having success outside of Minnesota.
Yeah, and if Boston wins, KG's going to be there to celebrate. So then Minnesota fans still aren't going to be happy.